Supposed to be. All right, guys. I'm very excited to do this session today. So, one thing I'll say very clearly. First of all, who saw the 2 Days to Million? I actually sat in front of my computer and watched the show now because it was so nice to relive this moment. I just ran like a god and won my second bracelet. That was wonderful. And actually, the first thing I want to start with. Let me just open what I prepped. So today I'll be talking about Path to Pro. And what this will be about is the first thing, if you're here for hand histories, you're in the wrong place. So today we won't be talking about hand histories. So I won't spoil your game of gold, don't worry. We won't be talking about hand histories today, but I want to talk about a topic that's, I think a lot of people have asked me about this. First of all, my path to pro, but then also how do you make it, right? That's a question I got the most in my career. Fedor, how can I make it? How can I make it, right? Like, what's the next step? If you could do it again, how would you do it? Basically, all the questions that are around this. And I wanted to do a session around this question is, how would I do it, right? So actually, I'm very excited. My poker team or group or however you want to call it, people that I dearly care for now. We've been working together for 1 year and they're here for a weekend. So we do a little boot camp weekend, get together, talking, eating, just having a good time and connecting. And one thing that becomes really apparent to me is what's very interesting is, right, I'm at the you could say peak, but I would say end of my career, and and it feels like more. I used to be very different when I was 20. If you know me as 20, I was about poker all day, 24/7, every day, just poker. So that's why I think it feels like I'm not breathing poker day in and day out. But what I find very interesting is there's a lot of things that me as an accomplished professional that I take for granted. And I want to talk about those things because when I started working with my team is called Soon, because they're soon to be top professionals. When I started working with the Soon team that I built and the people I got together, and some are from Grindhouse and some other people, and we did a big application process. When I started working with them, I realized how many things there are that I take for granted. And one big thing that I took for granted is that my entire career, I had a crazy thirst for growth. Crazy. Like, for me, it was just more. I couldn't get enough. I was in forums. I reached out to people. And there's a lot of things I never really thought about. I never really thought about, I was always more thirsty for input and feedback and hand histories. Of course, I thought about how I come across, and I was aware of that. And I wanted to look, good and then leave a positive impression. But I always wanted more to get, input and grow and find out their thoughts. And so I put myself, not planned, but intuitively, I put myself out there a lot. I blogged and I posted hands and I texted with people on Skype. So what I want to do today is I want to tackle a few topics. And I want to share my experience and some of those things I've never talked about publicly. So if you're tuning in and if you're interested, it could be that you're just interested in listening to the anecdotes and just, playing through the imagination and in your mind how it would be and so on. And, just listen to hopefully some funny and interesting stories. But also on the other hand, if you actually, in the position yourself, if you try to get better at poker, if you try to be a professional, and maybe even, if you are already a full-time player or are already a professional, maybe some things that you can find yourself in that maybe you struggle with. So I talk about my struggles today and share how I would do it different. So I want to start with this. So today it's going to be about my path to pro and generally how I would approach. There will be no hand review today. So if you're here for the hand reviews, tune out, take a walk, get some fresh air. I won't do any hand reviews today. No specific strategy. And the first thing I want to talk about is skill level touch grass. What's up, Deep into Mortar? Good to see you. skill level and reflection. And I think one thing a lot of people don't know about my career, and it's especially weird when I turned 21 and I had a lot of success online and live, and people started approaching me. Everyone kind of assumed I just fell into a pot of gold and I just ran good from the beginning. That was a very interesting experience. Is everyone thought it just went like I started playing poker and I just made $1 million. I hope there's no sound. So everyone thought I started playing poker and it just went boom, 50K, 100K, 1 million, like easy cheesy. But what a lot of people forget is I would say before I reached more than 10,000 euros bankroll, I would say it took me probably almost 3 full years, like maybe 2.5 full years. And I would say I probably spent like 5,000 hours, maybe 6,000 hours on poker. So let that sink in, because I think that is a very important part. Is I probably played 5,000 or 6,000 hours of poker at in the beginning, maybe even a minus hourly or like close to zero. And towards the end of that, maybe at like $1 or $2 or $5 hourly. So really, really bad hourly. No outlook for success. No clear, I didn't start playing sit and goes and started money. No, I maybe was a winner on like tournaments below $10, and I was a loser everything higher than 50. So I think that is very important that if I would go again about, and I see that in business now, if I go again about something, I try to spend a lot of time on thinking about my reflection process. How can I note down where I think I am? So I really try to write down, how good do I think I am? What are my predictions? Like, what is an outcome that I think I can achieve? Winning this and this much. Like in poker, I would make it very specific, like having this and this much win rate over a certain sample size, or winning these BB per 100 in like cash game or tournaments, or having this type of stats when I review my stats, or like improving. So making it very specific, because that's something where that's going to be your excuses, where you're just like, yeah, you don't look at that. You just tell yourself like, oh, I'm running bad. Like you focus on things that make you avoid reflecting your true skill. So I was not in a good space. I was not in a good mental space when I was 18, 19. I moved out. I finished school very early at, I think, late 16, because I jumped over 2 classes and repeated one. I've never met anyone who accomplished that. So I skipped 2 classes and then repeated one. I was terrible in school towards the end, and I really didn't participate in anything. And I moved out at the age of 17, and I was really lost. The options I felt I had, I did not connect to, and it felt like studying was my last resort, basically. It was the only option I see, and I didn't really love the option, but it was like, okay, I guess, if I fail this, I don't know where to go or what to do with myself. That was very, sorry, my stuff in the background, it will be 30 seconds of noise, but basically I didn't know what to do with my time. And so it was this interesting dynamic where poker was the one thing I was quite passionate about, but also didn't see a way to live. Like it was not clear for me, I just do poker and I make enough money, or this is my profession. It was not clear at all. It was just a thing I really enjoyed. So it was more a very intense hobby. And so the reason why I started playing poker a lot in the beginning was it was kind of the only thing I really liked besides playing football, and I could do it all day. So I didn't, I think that's also very important in terms of reflection. People later on, they look at it and they explain everything. They think, nice coffee machine. Yeah, it's my I don't know how to call it. My windows are closing, and that's 15 seconds more of noise. So the very important reflection process here is people later look at it and they explain everything, and I could totally lean into that. I could lean into that and say, I planned it all. I started poker. I'm a prodigy. I was so smart. I planned it all out. I started moving up the stakes, started getting better, and I just worked my way up. And like 2 years later, I absolutely crushed and made my first million. It's absolutely bullshit. Couldn't be further from the truth. I had no options. I was mentally in a really bad place. I was stressed. I didn't see any future in that. I just liked the process of poker in the mental challenge side, similar to how I like chess. I never thought about I make money with poker, or I take this path, or I do this. No, I just put a lot of time into it, very unstructured, really loved the game, and then stood with the back to the wall, if that makes sense in English as well, and kind of had to, like, I lived alone, I had zero money, I ate spaghetti and kebab every day, like, just to kind of spend as little money. I lived off 400 euros a month, paying my rent, which was one room, like 125 euros, and then the rest was food. And then I invested like 50 to 100 euros each month into poker as well. So it was a very, very simple lifestyle, let's say it like that. So my first 3 years have been a struggle. It's been no clear path and failing after failing. So when you see yourself in a similar spot, and you feel like, oh, there's no future, there's no outlook, I think it is very, very hard to see that from within. I didn't see it. But I genuinely believe that trusting that there is something later is very important. I didn't do it at the time, but when I start something new now, I trust myself in the process more to just think, when I love something and I put a lot of time into it, there will be something at the end, whatever it is. If like I enjoy that part and I'm really passionate about it and I just keep going, even if I don't, get financial results or whatever, like at some point something will show up. So if or when you are at that point, I wanted to give you that I think the passion part is the important part. If you do it without, you're not loving it, you don't look for ways to get better, then you're not creative, and then you won't find ways to get better. You will just find ways to sabotage yourself and find ways to stop doing it. But if you're like, I love this, but I struggle and money's tight and like I don't know how to make it, like I think those are the things to cherish and to really just like push more. So this is something that I feel like oftentimes, and now this is a segue into poker code as well, where people have asked me a lot, like, what is poker code for? And I wanted to make a skill bar. I told Jan, our designer, shout out to Jan, he's a legend. I told him, like, Jan, please, do something where, like, I think poker code is for people from 3 to 8. He was like, what do you mean 3 to 8? If I see the journey of a poker player and you go through the different levels, I think, level 1 and level 2, or, skill 1 or 2 out of 10, that's information for those people to go from 1 to 2 is everywhere. It's like, that's also, I never wanted to do these like explain the rules. Like, we do it a little bit so that it's there, but it was never something I wanted to do more, because 100,000 people can explain you the rules. Yeah, so going from 1 to 2 is just something, if you're passionate about, you will do that. You will read up the rules, you will maybe play a home game with your friends, you'll understand, okay, like if you play 70% of the hands, the others will do a little bit better. So like these first steps for me is the first 30, 50, 100 hours. You start watching some poker content, you start watching Phil Ivey and think he's really cool on TV, and then you start playing with friends. Like that's, you start learning the rules, you get a little bit better. And then I say 3 is when it starts your hobby player. You actually maybe go to the casino once, you play a live tournament, you're like, I like poker. This is a little bit more for me. This is like, I want to go to the golf course and actually play a few, like you go with a few friends and you're like, okay, I want to, you make online accounts, you start depositing some money and you start playing some stuff. That's when I think the 3 starts, and that's where it really kicks in. So maybe also for everyone in the chat right now who's watching, like, where do you see yourself from 1 to 10? So 1 is learning the rules, you're just starting out, and like getting to that. I think 5, 6 is, you've been playing for a bit longer. Then 8 is when you start, winning players, like people who pursue being winning players, who study, like who work with programs. And then 9 and 10 is, people really going hard after it, full-time players, accomplished players, already a lot of success. That's kind of the life cycle I see. And of course, we had to make the choice as well who we are addressing. And I think that, if I could pick the perfect player, I think motivation is the number one thing. I think I can teach anyone who's motivated about the game. But if I could pick the perfect player, I think it's like a 6. Someone who understands the lingo, who's 5 to 6.5. I think that's like, you understand the lingo, you're excited about the game, like you've heard of the different concepts, but you struggle to apply, like you need simplification. It's just all a lot, like there's so much stuff out there, you don't know where to start, like now you're in front, like you heard blockers, you heard, you maybe reviewed your stats once, like you want to know what, so like this is, I think, what we, or this is what we focus on. Because what we do is we take these concepts of players, who play on a level 9, level 10, and try to make them very simple so that everyone who's, weaker and on like still trying to understand it can catch up and can understand, how do blockers work? How does this particular, spot, like single raise spot in position, like how does that work? And you just break it down, you make it simpler, you give some takeaways. I think that's what Poker Code is for. And right now, probably one of the biggest changes we have made in the longer time. Currently it's Black Friday. It's the best deal we've ever given out. But the big thing that has changed, because one thing we always try to get across much more is the first thing we started is my masterclass. So I recorded a masterclass going through all the different topics, and we sold it for 1,500 euros back then. And we had lots of sales. And I wasn't entirely happy with it because a lot of people bought it, and then I could see in the back end how many people were watching, and I just want more, I wanted people to work, like actually, just not watch the first 4 videos, but actually like, get to the later videos, work through it, like see the post-flop stuff. So that's when we developed the entire system, like when we developed the membership, like bring people together, accompany you, guide you, So for me, it's more, when someone enters as a 4, I see Poker Code as a lifelong thing where you meet people, where you have coaches, and you can go through from 4 to 6 and 8. Like Kepalas was just in the chat. Like I know a lot of people in chat where I know them for, I know their nickname for 2 years now, 3 years. Like they're in there for a long time, and I see them go from, 5 to 6 to 7, and it's very satisfying. Because that's the thing we set out Poker Code to be in the first place, is that it, that it helps you along the journey, that it improves you, that it gives you a good bang for your buck, that you get a lot of value out of it, that you grow, that you make friends, that you have more than just, a few videos that you're watching. And so what we have changed is when you subscribe, like we will focus on long-term memberships. That's what was very clear to us, is people joining for a month, they come in with the intention, I watch a few videos like quick and then I'm out. Like I understand that, if you play $1 sit and goes, that of course, this is a big investment, but for me it's like, I think the other way around is we give you get access to some of the best players in the world, and if you break it down, it's like, $1.50 a week or €1 something a week, a day. It's like €9 a week or whatever. It's like, if you break it down to coaching, it's like €4 for a coaching. If you calculate the other way around, it's very, very cheap for what you're getting. If you think you want coaching by, I don't want to compare us to Tiger Woods or Roger Federer or whatever, but in the sense of poker, is like there are not many better players to be able to get coaching from. And the people we have, none of them coaches below €500. Like Stefan, I think is approx 1K an hour. Like I used to coach for 1K upwards an hour. Is like, it's very expensive individual content. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of like how big the gaps are between like people who play mid stakes and people who play high stakes, because the density of the content is going to be much more intense. So what we did is into the membership. So it's 67% off, $39 per month. You pay, it's a yearly payment, and you have lifetime access to the masterclass, which you can see here. So basically the idea is you get access to all my videos, and then the membership is more, that's the accompanying, that's the activity part, but that's now you get basically access to the entire package. You're going to be forever going to have your account. You're forever going to have access to the masterclass that I made. You're forever going to be in the Discord server, so you stay a member forever. And then the active part, the subscription, is going to be all the coachings we do every year, which are, I think we do around 400 coachings or so a year. So basically the ongoing coaching, that's going to be the membership. And now on top, we put lifetime access for the masterclass. Just because I don't want people to think, oh, I have to watch the masterclass now and this and this time frame. No, you just get access to it. You can watch it later. You're also going to be in the Discord forever. We don't want to remove a member after their membership runs out, because if you sign up for a year, we want to stay in touch with you forever. So that's what we put on top now. And I know for a fact we're never going to be cheaper than that. And the pricing will go back to normal after that. So I just wanted to explain what we offer. Of course, Cash Game Masterclass by Steffen is in there as well. We have over 500 videos on the platform. You get live weekly coachings. We have a lot of quizzes now as well. There's quizzes in Discord, and maybe there's some people in the chat as well who can explain or share their experience. That would be very nice. I've seen a lot of known faces. So yeah, would be amazing to hear some firsthand experiences as well. All right, now let's get back to the path to pro. Of course, if you decide to sign up, I'd be very happy to see you in the community. Let me know, please, if there's any questions as well. Please write questions in the chat. I'm so passionate about the product. I'm happy to answer any and every question that exists. Yeah. All right. So we're aiming, again, if you ask yourself, like, I think everyone can kind of put himself on that skill bar. So 3 to 8, if you're in that realm. Very clear as well. If you're 9, or like, that's not the right setting. Yeah. If you're an absolute top professional, Poker Code is not for you. I say that very clear as well, because I wanted to make that clear as well. Is for top pros, I would recommend different stuff. All right, but if you're trying to improve your poker game, if you're an amateur, if you're excited about poker, I think we are the right place. So now, so we started out, I struggled, and now I want to go a bit into study and learning, because that's also a part. I get this question a lot, right? How to study, what to learn, and so on. And I'll go again a little bit by what have I done, and then what would I do. Commodore asked a good question. What do you recommend for pros then? I'm talking like absolute top pros. So I can, study and learning is a good topic now. So if I let's say on my level even now, if I work with my group, so I have a group of people like Mario, Roland, like Wushu, like there's a few people we work with, I would recommend to find people on that level, right? The same way I did is find people on that level and then work with those people on that level. Hand reviews, working with solvers, setting up infrastructure. Like it's just gonna be, more intense on a smaller scale level. Work very particularly on your own game, very particularly analyze and exploit the opponents you play against. It just starts to become a little bit of a different approach and intensity, I would say. So I would just, you just want to work at a higher intensity and more one-on-one, more directly working with solvers, more, just getting in there and hardcore improvement. All right, there's a few questions. Let me see. Great question from Deluxe. Are there German subtitles? Yes, there are. So if you understand my English now, I think you will understand almost all the coachings, or yeah, basically all the coachings. And the masterclass has German subtitles. Yes. And we have some amazing coaches. Taurus Fabi is pointing that out. So we have some incredible coachings. I try to go for the people that I think are the strongest that I know in my surrounding. Also didactically, so just in the way they coach and how they. And I think we have some of the best coaches in the game. Like, if I would book coachings, I would book from them. That's why I wanted to have them on the team. Yeah, so Femo is an incredible player playing high stakes, incredible coach, very concise, very, very high level, very good stuff. Mammoth is fantastic. Curtis is really great. Like, well, yeah, we just have amazing coaches. I put my hand in the fire for them. So very happy we have them on the team. Blue Fox just signed up. Welcome to the team. Very excited. Please make use of all the value we're throwing at you. Will this video be seen after? I think so. I think it will be online for some time. Real the Prince is asking, why is your course special compared to upswing and chip leader coaching? I mean, I think you have to see the whole package. First, if I look at money for value, I really would say we're the best out there. I couldn't, like, and that's also a bit surprising to me. I think if I look at, you know, you not only get my masterclass, but you get access to all the individual coachings we've ever done and ongoing coachings. So basically it's, you know, a lot of them sell courses. So you buy a course, then you have to buy another course. There's little interaction often. Like with us, it's basically you sign up, you get the course, but you also get all the videos on all the topics we've ever done, and you get the ongoing videos. So you can basically select, okay, what do you want to work on right now, right? So it's an ongoing thing as well, but also you can share your journey, you can, you know, ask questions, get very great answers. Like if there's a particular thing you want to dive deeper into. So I see it a bit more, you know, you can buy a course, and some of the courses are great, but then what? That's kind of the experience we've made as well. As I made a course, you know, we sold it, okay, then what? So now I feel like we do all of that. We have the course, but we also have the membership, we have the coachings, we have the Discord where you can ask questions, we have quizzes that you can do, and so on. So it's like, in terms of, if you think you're spending $450, I compare the prices. Like, I don't think you get, you know, there you have to pay for this, you have to pay for that. And some of the stuff is pretty good. Like, I'm not bashing our opponents or, you know, competition. I'm just saying, like, I try to go for something where I'm very, very confident and proud of, like, I can offer this product at this price, and I am very proud of it. You know, this is not a financial venture for me. This is not like, oh, I want to make money with this thing. Like, no, I think if you're passionate about poker, you want to get better, I think our product is incredible. So, you know, quote me on that. Challenge. I'm happy to hear feedback after. I think it's incredible. What about Spanish? No, we don't have Spanish subtitles. Yes. All right. So let's continue with Path to Pro. We have some stuff to work through. Inaki, and make a free account and check out the cash section. So he asked how the cash courses is structured. Check out the cash section. Just make a free account. You can see everything, and then you see what it's made up of. Jinxie, is the 39-month deal for the follow-up year as well? Yes, you can potentially get it even cheaper. We are thinking about potentially doing the follow-up year. So if you're there for the second year, maybe do that even cheaper. Yeah, it's never going to be more expensive. All right, guys, let's talk about study and learning. We have some stuff to get through. So basically, the questionnaire is, right, how do I study in the most efficient way? And what have I done? There's also something a lot of people don't know. Basically, my upbringing, and this is something the Soon group knows quite a bit. I've said this a few times. So I think my strong suit was in this thirst that I brought. It wasn't something I planned. It was just, I had hands and I had questions, and I wanted those questions answered, and I didn't care about how to do it. So the way I did it in the beginning is I used IntelliPoker. So I posted hands there, and I read every hand that was posted, every hand. And that wasn't enough. So when that wasn't enough, I was like, okay, I picked the people that wrote the smartest stuff and asked them for their Skype. And then I sent, basically I had 25 people, 25 German guys, and each day I sent, and I had a hand, I sent it to those 8, and then I had another hand and I sent it to those 8, and then I had another hand. So I just like had my cycle of like, getting a peer review of my hands, and I just sent like dozens of hands a day. So that was my first mastermind. They didn't know, for them it was more like, oh, this guy's asking me about hands. So I just built this network of people where I got all their Skype names and then just figured out who the smartest and best responses were. And then I sent more to those guys. So it was basically just, big network. I think in the end, I probably talked to 100, 150 people and just filtered it down to like 15, 20 people that I wrote on a regular basis. Bambucha88 was one of the best ones back then. Shout out to him. So this was my thing. So today, of course, it's very different. Back then, there were no solvers, right? So the thing I think that I would highlight very particularly is to build lean and effective processes. And that's something that I made the metaphor, I created the metaphor. I was talking to David the other day, shout out to Plain Wasted. And I told him, like, it's a bit like you're in the jungle, right? And imagine you're in the jungle and you sit on the fire. So around you, there's, in my head, there's this image, you sit on a fire and like there's a bit of a free space, and then there's just thick jungle around you, and you have your fire on, you sit on the bench, like that's the poker world now, your journey, and now, let's say, in which direction do you go? Where do you start? What's the thing that brings you value? And you can sit on the fire and wait, or you can take a machete and just start walking in a direction. And that's the thing is, like, I think what I did back then is I just took a machete and I walked and I walked and then at some point you get to another place that's maybe nicer, or works better. And you just have to, I think if you can't see it before, you can't know where you're going, you can't really know, oh, like I need this network of people, I need these 15 people. I started talking to people because I knew I wanted information, and of course I wanted to increase the density and value of that information. So what I did is I started and then I improved every day a little better people, better questions, better processes, better infrastructure, better process, like different hand history. And then I found a hand history replayer, then I sent it to 8 people instead of 6, then I found some new players, then I increased it, and suddenly you're like, oh, okay, it gets better and better and better and better and better. And it ended up being an extremely valuable resource for me, which is a very simple process. Play a hand, mark it, send it, get feedback, learn. Right? So, and that developed into a group I studied with. And I think if you are at that point, that's what a lot of people are missing. They don't do any of those steps because they say, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know, maybe if I post this hand, like, they do so little steps and are so passive that, and the only thing they're complaining about basically in their own, like in their self-talk is, oh, the jungle is so thick and and I don't know where to go. And like, the only answer to that is nobody knows where to go. So I think it's very important whenever you can connect with this idea that you say to yourself, I don't know what to do, or I don't know where to go, is you have to start. And particularly, and this is very important, you have to take proactive action and make it a win-win situation. A lot of people are extremely lazy and ask me something and think, they do 5% and I do 95%. Fedor, explain me this. I'm like, no, why would I? But if you bring something, it's like, hey, Fedor, I prepared this. Can you take a look? What do you think of my thoughts? Can you challenge my thoughts? Now suddenly you're like, oh, someone came, respected my time, showed me appreciation, and is aware that he has to bring something in order for it to be worthwhile. Yeah, so that in regards to study and learning, I think is very important. And one big thing I want to address here in study and learning is work with solvers. GTO Wizard, it's so incredible, especially towards the reflection part. Work with something like GTO Wizard. It's super cheap compared to what you can get. And grind the trainer. Just grind the trainer. Especially if you're a 5 or below, grind the preflop trainer. Grind it hard. Like grind it all the time. And get your feedback, because there you can't lie to yourself. You know, if you score a 75 preflop, you're just not a good player, period. There's no discussing, negotiating, like no. If you, simple preflop spots, if you get, you know, an 80 or worse, that's just the way it is. So drilling is a part of the game. There's nothing better than seeing your actions and seeing where you make mistakes. So preflop needs to be very sharp. So for everyone 5 or 6 or below, you know, maybe do it anyway. But if you don't score at least, you know, 95 in preflop stuff, in everything you're playing, 60 big blinds or below, 3-betting, open raising, big blind defense, no, not acceptable. So today you can be very, very strict with this stuff, because there's very good solutions that you can drill. Yeah, so be relentless in this regard. And it can be very fun too. Find some friends, you know, take 5 friends, do a battle, put, you know, $10 in a pool, and let's see who's the best, yeah? Slajo, yes, work to do. All right, now peer group and team. And this is a story I have told a little bit, but this developed into Team Gatsby Campino. Maybe some of you don't know the name, but you should know the name. Team Gatsby Campino has basically been our group of friends in our group, and basically what happened out of the Skype is I started reaching out to a few people, and I met Koray this way, I met Rainer Kempe this way, I met Steffen this way, I met Julian, Thomas, Gatsby this way, I met basically Ben, I met this way, basically all of them I met this way. And the way it was is we just had Skype calls every day. And when I say every day, I mean every day. Every day there was a Skype call going on. I would say we probably averaged like 3-hour Skype calls for the entire year, you know, sometimes 6, sometimes 8 hours, sometimes 1 hour. There was something going on every day. When you're playing, you have people to talk to, they rail you talk about hands. Every day I woke up, I chatted in Skype, we posted hands, we discussed. So one of the most valuable things that happened to me in my career, and that's why I'm so pushy with the Zoom group as well, because it really, like, you know, I learned a lot, but this group got me, you know, to 200%, 300%. You start to pick up so much. You have these people who put all their energy, all their love into this group. It's so fulfilling. And then we did Cherry Island. I rented an island, a house, and invited all of them, and we grinded for 4 weeks, and it was incredible. So we had the time of our lives. I learned probably 9 months worth of stuff in 1 month, sitting in a whirlpool talking with some of the best players in the game, their exploits, their strategies, their approaches. It was unbelievable. So if you want to power charge your next steps, find your peer group. Find people who are better, find people who are on your level, find people who are worse, and just be very clear and intense with who you're working with. You know, don't spread too thin. Don't be friends with everyone and just, like, you know, just socialize, but actually work with people. You know, challenge each other, review hand histories, swap hand histories, build study routines. Like, you know, there's also, it needs a certain depth. It's not only about chit-chatting with everyone, and it's also about, okay, like, how do we progress? How do we make steps forward? So that much to that. Cherry Island was incredible. We did it again later in Costa Rica, which was also absolutely incredible. These trips, you know, if you have people that you can invite, it's just unbelievable. Can highly recommend. All right, guys. Now we talk about something quite technical, bankroll management. This is a thing where even accomplished players are absolutely garbage at this, yeah? And I also had no idea. I probably should post something on this because it's quite technical and quite mathematical. And Now, I will try to break it down as simple as I can. Yeah, so please listen to me on this. This is quite some of this is now backed by math. You know, not only like me coming up with stuff. Of course, I have to make assumptions and build models, but this is like this is not just, oh, Fedor is saying. No, it's like there's mathematical models you can build to kind of put, you know, certain emotions, you know, how likely do you want a certain downswing of which size to be and so on into something practical. The problem with poker is a bit, it's not really possible to say how often you finish which plays and so on, but you can approximate in a way that you can actually get a pretty good idea. So the two factors that are very, very important is size of the field and edge in the field. Okay? Those are the two factors. Let's start with them. Now, you have to think of it in a way where both factors combined make a big difference, right? So it's very hard for a human to come up with that very easily. So it's not easy to think, oh, you know, I just take this much percent or this much percent. So it's very important when you have to make a big difference, whether it's 50 runners, 100 runners, 500 runners, 1,000 runners, 5,000 runners, or 10,000 runners. It's a massive difference. Massive difference. Yeah. So that's the first scale that's very important. The second one is it's a huge difference whether you have 5%, 10%, 50% or 100% edge. Massive difference. So I think I need to post some numbers later in regards to that. But basically, what I would say is basically never, under almost no circumstances, put more than 2% of your bankroll into a tournament. Okay, that's kind of like, let's say, the first threshold. And then on the other end, the highest threshold is probably something like 800 buy-ins or so. Yeah, so something between 50 and 800 buy-ins. And the main thing is there's almost no spots in tournaments unless it's quite small fields or extremely high edge where you take a less than 100 buy-in approach. Very few spots. It's mostly for, you know, super high rollers, very small field, like 30 runners, 50 runners, stuff like this. Yeah. So that is a very important part. You also kind of, you know, you can do a different approach if you have an income, for example. You know, if you play poker and you have an active income, it's a different thing and so on. But I just talk straight only about your poker bankroll, right? So now, generally, I would say, as a threshold, in low ROI fields with big fields, you cannot be passive enough. You cannot be passive enough. So this idea of shot taking, don't do it. Yeah, so this, like, you play a game that's like at the high end of your buy-in range and you take a big piece, that's probably one of the worst things you can do. Only shot take in spots where it's by far the softest games. Yeah, so if you have the chance to invest money at like 20, 30, 40, 50% ROI, you know, like it needs to be this high, then you can take, you know, like you can approach it with 100 buy-ins or something like this. But that's very important that the difference is massive. If I would give advice to someone, you know, if you, the lowest ROI games and like large fields, like go in the direction of, you know, close to 1,000 buy-ins, you know, for this game. And if it's the best games, very high ROI, then you can go in the direction of, you know, 100 buy-ins. And that's like for the absolute best game, like, you know, let's say a 400 runner live tournament with like big edge. That's like, you can take, you know, up to 1% of your bankroll. Yeah, so that's the stretch we're working in. Okay, so for online games, generally be passive. And that's my advice to professionals. Yeah, my biggest downswing, I was probably at the absolute peak of my game, and I think it was very lucky for me that I always worked with like a 100 to 200 buy-in approach. Like I always took between 0.3 and 1% of my bankroll. I don't think I think that was actually quite fine, but also I had a very high ROI. You know, if I would have been worse, or there would have been spots I would have struggled a lot. So it was kind of a bit lucky that I had such a high ROI, and like I think I was crushing games a lot. So my bankroll management that was a bit aggressive, on the more aggressive side, kind of fit my edge. But this wasn't super planned. So for everyone out there, especially right now, games are pretty tough online. You can win for sure, but you're not gonna absolutely crush the game. So be careful with bankroll management. Yeah, my biggest downswing, I think I lost my half of my bankroll in like 2015. And the tricky part, why I highlight this so much, is because it's going to be a very big struggle mentally. You will start playing worse, you will doubt a lot, you will not have confidence. So 100 buy-in swings are quite regular in tournament poker. Yeah, so be aware of that and prepare. All right, game selection. And this is a massive one. Actually, one I changed my mind a bit on. Very important if you want to become a pro. Game selection is maybe one of the most important things nowadays, because I see as being part of the pro, it's like also you probably have more leverage, or let's say similar leverage with game selection compared to actually getting better. You could be a mediocre player and just have a good career just by game selecting well. Yeah. So I personally pursue this idea that I want to be great at things I do. So I put a lot of emphasis on growing and getting better. But game selection is so important. And one big thing is it's a skill to build. It's not something you know or you don't know. You have to learn to game select. It's a skill. It gets better over time. You have to start. You have to learn what makes a good game and what doesn't make a good game. The structure, the player pool, stuff like this is very important. You have to be an expert. You have to become an expert at that stuff. And a lot of people have no clue. They have no clue about ROIs. They have no clue about win rates. They have no clue. So you look at it and you're like, people talk about, edges or ROIs, and they have no clue. No statistical evidence, never reviewed stuff. So one funny example was, people talk about ROIs, and what we did was I let them guess ROIs. This was like 7 years ago. I let people guess ROIs for other players. And then what I did was I added it up at the end. And you can imagine it did not match. You can't say, oh, every regular is like 20%, 30%, and then it has to come from somewhere. Right? Someone has to lose. If everyone's winning 30%, someone has to lose. Let's say 30 regulars are winning 30%. The minus 900% have to come from somewhere. So you need, a 40% player there, a minus 50% player there, a minus 30% player there, a minus 20. You need like a lot of losing players. You can't say, oh, this guy's minus 10, but everyone else is minus 30. It's not possible. It's plus 30. So, very important that you will constantly overestimate yourself. The majority of players, I feel it's a bit like 95% of people constantly overestimate themselves, and then 5 to 10% of players constantly underestimate themselves. I feel that's a bit the balance. So the majority of you will overestimate you or yourself. So be aware of that. GeoGeo, 30% ROI means return on investment. So if you play a tournament for $100, it would mean that in the long run, a 30% ROI would mean that you would, in the long run, make 130 back. Yeah? So 30 profit, basically. So ROI defines how much return on your initial investment you're getting. So 30% in this case would be 30 of 100, which would be 130, or 30 return on invest, so 130 total. So everyone is genuinely overestimating themselves. So to be very statistically aware of that is very important. In cash games, it's very much about BB per 100. Yeah, you have to play a certain threshold of hands and look at your win rates. In tournaments, you can do that too. Look at your statistics. Post them in the community, for example. Let someone else review them. Like look at your BB per 100. Look at your results over over trackable sample sizes. But also review what games you're playing. One of the absolute best ideas I could give you is, if you don't want to understand, look at the people who are the best game selectors and look at what they're playing. There's a guy, his name is Jabrakada Hall, I think Tom Hall? I'm not entirely sure. Hall, I think is his last name. He had one of the best games. His graphs is like one straight line to the top. Like I think 25-30% ROI, just like a straight line. The guy is a beast at game selecting. He plays a lot of satellite. He basically is in every game where it's a good ROI. Just like he leaves. It's no ego. Just like he just wants to make money. And there's obviously a balance in that between growth and money. But what I want to say there is, having skill at game selecting is very, very important. Be very aware of which games you're beating, which games you're not beating, what are your win rates, what are achievable ROIs in tournaments. Like, these are all questions. If you want to get better, you have to be aware of those, especially if poker is a hobby. Even more, like, be aware of, okay, I'm probably losing 10%. Is this an investment I want to take? Can I afford, let's say I play a 1K buy-in, can I afford to invest, $100? Like, it's fine, if you have the money, if you can't afford it, it's like, going to play golf or any other hobby. It's totally fine. Just, be aware of that. Like, okay, this is rough. Like, I'm, maybe a losing player in the field. Like, I'm estimating of minus 10%, or, I do this because I like the competition. I like the experience. I want to get better, and so on. So, because now this is the growth part. I also did invest quite a lot of money into playing tougher opponents to then get better, to then utilize that. So until you are, at a 7 or an 8, I would always say try to invest as much in your growth as possible. Yeah, try to put as much into growing as possible, into learning, into, playing tough opponents, but make sure you grow. All right, and this leads into mental game, because I talked about my downswing, and I think the mental side of poker is extremely important. I've talked a lot about this, so I won't go too much into detail, but I just want to highlight how important it is to, especially when you turn pro, the average mental game of professionals is quite weak. And the reason why it's quite weak is because not a lot of time has been invested, and there's a lot of edge to be gained. If you put 10 professionals and put them through a 200 buy-in downswing, one thing that always stood out to me is it's gonna be a bad experience. You're not gonna like it. But it's going to be a bad experience for everyone that goes through that experience. And basically every professional will go through a similar experience. So for some it's going to be worse, for some it's going to be better. But it's not going to be great for some and bad for others. So there's a massive edge, and in recovering well when you go through a terrible experience, there's a massive edge in handling the situation as good as you can. There's a massive edge in being more resilient than the others. Because everyone will go through an experience like this. And it's much easier to save, 10%, like not blundering it, not giving it away, not blasting it off, not tilting away your stack. That's where you save much, much, much more than what you win when you play great instead of good. You will do much more if you play okay instead of terrible. That for me was one of maybe the most important lesson is I don't have to play perfect all the time. Nobody does. I don't play great all the time. Nobody does. But when I run bad, I want to do okay with it. I want to talk about it. I want to recover from it. I want to focus on what's important to me. I want to look forward. I want to still focus on growing. And I think that's one of the biggest edges you can gain in poker, is to not blunder it away when things go poorly. And now everyone, what's not going poorly, I feel everyone is underestimating the value of working on it, because it's not urgent. It's kind of like, why should I do therapy when I don't have a problem? It's like, yeah, there's maybe no imminent badly hurting problem, but your resilience is being built in the preparation. Your preparation for these moments, that will pay off when you are at the absolute low. So every hour you invested up until that point, that's going to be a massive payoff. So for me, when I started working with Elliot, the things didn't go very well. And I realized that things weren't going well. I started working with him, and in that moment I realized, during times when things weren't going well, I was doing so much better than before. And that's when it clicked, like, wow, this improves my performance by 10, 20, 30%. So, instead of playing poorly now and winning 2BB, now suddenly, I'm sharper. Like, yes, things aren't going my way, but I'm in a much better place. So working on mental resilience in a game where there's massive variance and where you will, like everyone else, be too conscious about it, rationalize things, sabotage yourself, trap yourself, limit yourself. There's going to be, everyone will have stuff. If you don't work on that, you're missing on one of the biggest levers in your career. So that's my pitch for working on your mental side, reflecting, journaling, doing therapy, having friends you can talk about, like as professional as possible, like working on the mental side of strengthening your mental resilience and generally your constitution and how strong you show up. I think very few things that I consider are so easy to have that big of an impact on your career. So very, very highly recommend. Now, this is kind of the wrap. I'm leading back to something I think I talked about enough. We have the biggest promo ever. I don't really want to sell you guys something. I just want to share my excitement for Poker Code, the product we've built. I also want to thank the team, the coaches, the entire community. I see a lot of people in the chat. It's I mentioned it before. Poker Code is not really a financial venture for me, and yet it's probably the company that means the most to me so far, and I'm very grateful for that journey. So I think the thing I'm most grateful for is, I think it's what we did very well is we attracted exactly the energy that we put out there. Is we went out there with the goal to just create content we like and build a product we like and build something that we think is we would have liked when we were at the beginning, and I think we have accomplished that, and I'm very proud of that. So I won't really go into the sales pitch. I think I've said a lot about the product. I am proud of what we have built and everything we're offering. So if you care about getting better at poker and connecting with some great people, then I think it's the right thing for you. And if not, then it's not. And then I'm also happy to share some stuff, and you can just follow us and take advantage of the free content we're putting out, and that's cool too. So yeah, that's all I have to say, I think, in regards to Poker Code. For I think $468, you get a full year access, lifetime access to the masterclass, lifetime access to Discord. Will never be cheaper. will also, if you subscribe now, it will not become more expensive. But obviously, the product for the others who just subscribe later will be more expensive. So it's a limited time offer. And yeah, I'm very excited to hopefully see new people joining. A lot of people have joined already, and I hope more people are joining. So welcoming them into the fold. So yes, do you guys have questions? Is there something about, maybe also regarding the topic, is there something about maybe your path to a professional, a question that, a thing you struggle with? Now is question time, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. I'll read the chat. Domas is asking, what do you mean with infrastructure while talking about poker? Generally, when I talk about infrastructure, I mean the setting you operate in. So the processes you have in place, what you work with, who you work with, what the processes are you work with, how do you review hands, how do you work with solvers, your tracking is basically everything, every tool you're using, everyone you're working with, how you play poker, your setup, like basically everything that describes your situation. Fago has a good question. How can you calculate your current ROI? You can't. You have to estimate it. It's a bit like, how do you calculate the win percentage of a team in football? The bookies can't, but what they do is they look at history, they look at statistics, they start to build a certain experience. So become a bookie for yourself, start to become good at estimating. You can look at your historic results, you can look at markers like your win rate in your poker tracker, for example, stuff like that. Need a Poker Code Live Festival? Yes, we have something planned, let me tell you that. And what do I think about staking deal? Depends on the staking deal. Generally, I would say it's very important who you do it with. If you have the right group of people and the right coaches, I think it's a good idea. Chilo Romeo, what's up? He says, I asked that on YouTube, but doing it here as well. I currently am in a situation you talked about yourself, in the early stage of having about $400 a month and spending $50 to $100 a month on poker. I would love to invest that money. Would you say taking a shot at taking a membership or consuming the free content for now? Very difficult to say. It depends a bit on what your other options are. It's always, of course, very individual. I mean, I think that it can help you quite a lot, but also I wouldn't make, existential cuts, I think there's a lot of free content out there that can help you a lot. So I would try, especially, if you can't afford, then I would try to, I'll be super honest with you, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you, yeah, you have to. No, I think if I'm in your situation, exactly same situation, I would probably not buy any product and probably just try to get along with as much free content as possible. If I just have to, if I either decide to spend money on food or this, always spend it on, your apartment and food and and then, if you want a little to play with, I would probably say don't spend much money on poker. Like, you can still learn playing very tiny stakes. You can play 50 cents or $1 and learn the same as if you play $5 or $10. It's not necessary to play high to learn. So focus on actively building routines to get better. I think probably trying to win a prize is your best bet. Participate in these raffles and giveaways, and you can win a Poker Code membership probably if you try hard, or GTO Wizard would be valuable for you as well. So I hope that helps you. Do you have live tells as part of the Poker Code course? Asks Pers XB. Yes, I do. I think it's actually one of the strongest videos from the course. I think we have probably 60 minutes of stuff on live tells. I think it is pretty valuable stuff. We also have a very good YouTube video on that, Pers, if you want to take a look at that. Sonic asks, is there still value in learning GTO turn and river spots if I mainly play live mid-stakes tournaments? Depends how you learn it, but yes, I mean, there's always value in learning strong fundamental theory, but I think it's very important about how you study it. So I think this one is really good to watch content for, especially if we play mid-stakes tournaments. I think for someone like you, having very strong coaching content that gives, because what they do is they break down complicated spots and give you good takeaways, right? Like you need good takeaways for improving your theoretical foundation. So I think you'll learn more in watching content on this stuff than looking at it yourself. Extreme says, what's your opinion on CFPs? Depends on, it can't say like this. Just do it if it's a good coach. Very simple. Like, make up your mind, and if it's a great coach, it can be fantastic. I would only do a CFP with someone that I can learn a lot from. Never do it just, like, it has to be someone you can learn a lot from, I would say. Are we planning on making a new grindhouse? Maybe. Not decided right now. What area of the game does the course mainly focus on, Fedor? Asks Real the Prince. It's basically everything. I think we have content on, it's not only the course, we have also 500 more videos on, I think at this point, basically everything. We have PKOs, single race pots, 3-red pots, multi-way pots, pre-flop stuff, post-flop, short stack, deep stack, cash game. Like, I think Hold'em-wise, we have something on everything. Like, I don't think there's a topic where like, oh, but you don't have this. It's like, if you're interested in something, you'll find it. Will there be a cash grindhouse someday? Probably not. How do you think about satellites regarding BRM? You can be more aggressive with satellites, but mostly be careful with how big your bankroll, how big your edge is. That's important. Yeah, so don't qualify into something where then you're money scared in the target tournament. Yeah, so if you can't unregister, be careful with the buy-in. Like optimally, you play the satellite with winning RI, and then you sell off action in the target tournament. How long is your long downswing? My longest downswing was probably like around 9 months, I think. It was terrible. Downswings can be grueling. Like, be prepared. How many of the players who play the Triton have all 100% on their own? Depends on the buy. A lot of people swap. I think in the 50Ks and below, quite a lot of people have all action their own. For 200K, I think quite a lot of the people sell. At what bankroll level can we comfortably cash out in order to consider pro and live only from poker? I think basically every pro should be able to live from poker. Just don't spend too much. I think with like 1,000 euros a month, you can live a decent life. And then from there, quality of life increases. You probably live in a flat with other poker players, and like you spend money on rent and food. And then from there, you work your way up. So yeah, I think, I consider a pro if you start making, 20 to 30K a year. That's what I consider a pro, where you can afford your own living from it and build your bankroll at the same time. The coaching call is recorded. Yes, all is recorded and on our platform. It's kind of like Netflix. You can just pick something you want and then... should our raise first in ranges be the same on micro as on low mid stakes? Probably not, but not too far away. Not as crazy as you might think. You can make a bit more adjustments, of course, but not crazy different. How would you build a momentum for yourself when things are going a little rough for 3 to 4 months straight? I would focus on doing things outside of poker that cheer you up. Do sports, meet friends, go on holidays, and then work through it. Like, gain confidence by reviewing your game, studying, find stuff that confirms you're on the right path, rather than just look at results. Just focus on doing the right things. How do we deal with so much limping? I mean, raise for value. What can I do to convince Steffen Sontheimer to coach me? very simple. I think he charges an hourly. Reach out and pay him the hourly. What's a CFP? Coaching for profit. What's the difference between your masterclass and the one from Raise Your Edge? I'm not like, we sell a membership. So it's basically, the masterclass is a big part, but you get so much more. You get access to all our coachings we've ever done. Not only the masterclass, but also we've done 500 more coachings on particular topics. So the masterclass is like it's a hard piece. It basically runs you from start to finish. But then we build more and more and more and more. And you get all the past coachings, 400 future coachings, access to Discord, a lot of other improving players. Like it's, I think money for value, it just offers more. All right, guys. I'll do the last 1 or 2 questions and then we wrap it up. Is selling stakes to get into a higher buy-in a good idea or no? It depends. It depends on your skill. If you beat the tournament, sure, it can be a good idea. What would I recommend bounty or normal tournaments considering ROIs? Don't play hypers and only play bounties if you have studied bounties. Is 100 buy-in good bankroll? I explained it a bit earlier. At least minimum 100 buy-ins. All right, guys. What is the difference between the ranges on PokerCode and GTO? Shouldn't be a huge difference. The ranges were run with pretty high accuracy, so pretty good ranges I think we have on our side. Do I do one-on-one coachings? Not currently. All right, and the last one, let's see. Is it possible to make a cheaper offer for maybe just a masterclass without coachings and stuff? No. I think 468. I don't think there's a better deal out there. I'll be very straight. I think we are offering heat at a really good price point. So we will never be cheaper than that. I say this much. So it will be by far the cheapest price we have to offer, and you get a lot for it. So if you don't think this offer is value for you, then it's just not the right fit. So, all right, guys, it was a lot of fun. I hope you could take away a little bit from my anecdotes. It was less technical, but I just felt like, I've been asked a lot about these questions and I don't have many other formats to address this. So, yes, I'm very happy that so many of you guys joined. It was great to see so much activity in the chat as well. It looked like there were some topics that you could resonate with. I hope you could. And I appreciate a lot that you tuned in, that you stick with me, with it. And I hope you could take away something. So if you want to join us on our journey, go check out our website, pokercode.com. You can see it here. The cheapest we will ever be. Take advantage of it, join us, and join the journey. You'll like it, I'm pretty sure. So, guys, it's been a pleasure. Keep crushing. And, I'll see you on the other side, in the community, hopefully. Yeah? So, have a good one, and bye-bye.